Rightio guys, another instructional one for you today. I've got the old man's wood chipper here, and this is going to be a pretty handy thing to know. So if you leave petrol engines lying around for a while and you haven't drained the fuel bowl, the fuel has a property that tends to develop a little lacquer or like a junky consistency that blocks up the jets and stuff inside the carburetor. So it's a pretty easy fix. All you need usually is a flat blade screwdriver, a small set of sockets. These are usually 10 mil. I think that's 10 mil as well. There's another one on the bottom of the bowl there, that's also 10 mil. And it can be done while it's on the engine, wherever it be, but it's a lot easier if you pull it apart. So once you pull these two 10 mils off, this whole carburetor slides off. You've just got to detach fuel line, usually turn the fuel off at the petcock if it's in that part of the line. If not, you just get a little pair of pliers or something with a rubber band on it or something like that. Get away, mate. And yeah, that's an easy way to go about it. But yeah, I'm going to slowly disassemble this. I'll come back, I'll do a little bit of time lapse, and then I'll go back into a video where I'm actually clearing out the jets. 100% of the time, and that is the problem. No, I can't say 100% of the time. I'll say 80% of the time that is the problem. It could be a spark plug issue, it could be a spark delivery problem, but the fact that nothing's actually happened to this engine, it hasn't been in a corrosive environment, and it's just sat around, that will be what it is. There'll be just some sort of blockage in the jets, and all I've got to do is clear that out, and it should start first go. But at the moment, I don't think it's going to start. So fuel on, choke on. That's manufactured new handle. Kind of wants to go actually. Nah, that's not kind of wanted to go. So this is a chipper, so it's got a pretty big sort of flywheel, and the way a flywheel works on an engine is to keep the rotation going, help the rotation going. So on race cars and that, they lighten the flywheel so a car can rev a lot harder. Torque's not necessarily one of their, I can't think of the words right now. It's not one of their goals. The faster the engine revs, the quicker they can send the rotation through to the back wheels. But in this, once that flywheel takes up, it'll have heaps more, what's the word I'm trying to look for? Kinetic energy, rotational energy. Can't think of the word. Anyway, the flywheel, the weight of the flywheel will continue to help the engine to run, and it won't bog down when you're putting bigger objects in there to chip. So yeah, hang on, let's have a look and see if this is on as well. Yeah, that's in the on position. All the wires are connected. You can smell fuel, so maybe it is getting fuel. Maybe it is a spark plug issue. I'll pull the spark plug out and have a look anyway. But yeah, I'll go to time lapse and see what's up. So as you can see, that didn't take long, very long at all. Literally those two bolts, I just had to take the top of the airbox off to get to that bolt there, which is attached here. That all comes off. Just had to make sure that the petcock was in the off position, so it would come right off. And you've just got this little tiny spring here that you just have to sit to the side, and then this linkage here, once it goes around to a certain point, should be able to just pop it out like that. It's just the fuel line stopping me pull that right off at the moment, so that's out there like that. Now I've just got this fuel line which I'm going to have to try and put a pinch on, because as soon as I undo that, it's going to want to empty the tank. So I'll just have to put a Usually I'll use a set of multi grips or something like that. So keeping in mind that that is rubber and these are steel, I meant vice grips too, not multi grips. Multi grips are the ones where you change the opening width. Right, so that should cut the fuel off. Stop it running. It's just a little tiny sort of hose clamp here, which I should be using pliers to get off, but I'm not. Use my fingers. Actually, I don't need them at the moment because I haven't pulled it off. Just pull that up out of the way. Righto. So just, that's not really tight enough. I'll just wind it up a little bit more. Crimp that on there like that. Alright, no fuel coming out of the diff. So yeah, I've got the whole thing off. It's pretty straightforward from here, so I'll move over to the bench. Righto, so got the carby off. As I said before, it's 10 mil. Fuel bowl looks pretty clean. So underneath this float here is the needle and seat. That's what controls the fuel level in the bowl. So as the fuel level gets lower, this sinks, lets the needle off the seat, lets more fuel in, and then as it fills up, then it pushes this back onto its seat. So there's usually no retaining on this, so that little pin just comes out like that. Inside the bowl, pull the float off. There's the top of the needle, and the seat is in there. All looks pretty clear in here at the moment. So there's a little jet in there, which I'll need a fine flat blade screwdriver for. Use one a little bit bigger. This one might be too big. No, it's good. Right, so that's got a clear hole in it, so that's not creating a restriction. Alright, so there's nothing gunking that up either. Nothing at all. So I'll place that back in the hole, like that. I've been wrong before, it could be a spark issue as to why it's not starting, or an electrical delivery. Maybe one of the wires is not working properly, something wrong with the magneto. I doubt it. Choke's working fine, throttle butterfly is fine. petcock's working fine. I mean, maybe just me pulling this apart is enough to disturb possibly whatever was buggerizing with the fuel delivery. So I'll just reassemble this. Pretty quick and easy. Let's put it back on. I wouldn't recommend using that too often on a rubber fuel line. It can deteriorate it by putting cuts and grooves and whatnot in it. There's plastic ones you can get. You also use them to hold your brake lines as well, so if you have to pull a caliper off a car so you don't have to bleed too much, you can just block the brake line, pull the caliper off, or pull the wheel cylinder off your trailer or whatever you've got. It stops the brake fluid coming out. Just going to turn that fuel back on. So there we go. Just going to pull this bolt out and see if fuel is flowing freely through there. Yep, plenty of fuel going through there, so there's nothing stopping fuel delivery. Now fuel all over my foot. Don't light anything. Yeah. I just reassembled all this, I think I said before, just so I didn't lose any parts. I know where everything is. I don't have fancy containers here to hold everything. Fuel tap stopping the petcock. There we go. And so it's the choke. Get in there. There we go. One nut. Two nuts. Nothing needs to be done up super tight. Line this bad boy up. Extension makes it easier. Get start, get started, beautiful. Getting the right nip, not working with super high torques here. Alright. Sure all those wires are plugged in properly. The ignition system, the power pack, everything seems to be in order. That's on. Carby's on, fuel's on. Spark plug is in. If it doesn't start this time, I will pull the spark plug out and have a squeeze. Sparko. No Sparko appears to be a problem. I'll just switch that back for some reason if it's set backwards. No Sparko. The spark plug is wet. It appears to be okay. Yeah, there's a spark there. Because this is a chipper, there's crap everywhere. Or mulcher, I should say. It's not a chipper. I've been calling it a chipper, it's a mulcher. I'm sure some arborists out there will get upset. Right, spark. Spark plug's in reasonably good nick. Pulled that carby off and apart, and there was nothing that was restricting it, so the spark, maybe that just wasn't sitting on properly. There we go. So I think maybe the spark plug connection wasn't real good. I mean, it could have been a multitude of things. The fuel could be a little bit old as well. But I didn't change the fuel in the fuel tank. It didn't smell like it was old or off fuel when it's off. I can't describe it. It's just a real off pong. I mean, fuel to most people would smell really, really rank anyway. But yeah, it just gets a different smell to it. Once it gets on your skin, it's hard to get off. I know that the normal fuel smell sticks to you anyway. I know it's hard to explain to people that don't understand, but fuel when it's off or bad gets a really distinct bad smell. And as I said, when fuel gets sitting in something for a long time, as it evaporates, whatever the additives that they put into it creates like a lacquer, kind of like a shellac, like a varnish that you would see on like a varnish that you would see on a table or something like that. And it blocks up all those tiny little minute holes I was showing you before. But yeah, it appears to be working fine. Let's see if we can chip something. See if we can make a mess. So I think maybe the spark plug connection wasn't real good. I mean, it could have been a multitude of things. The fuel could be a little bit old as well. But I didn't change the fuel in the fuel tank. It didn't smell like it was old or off fuel when it's off. I can't describe it. It's just a real off pong. I mean, fuel to most people would smell really, really rank anyway. But yeah, it just gets a different smell to it. Once it gets on your skin, it's hard to get off. I know that the normal fuel smell sticks to you anyway. I know it's hard to explain to people that don't understand, but fuel when it's off or bad gets a really distinct bad smell. And as I said, when fuel gets sitting in something for a long time, as it evaporates, whatever the additives that they put into it creates like a lacquer, kind of like a shellac, like a varnish that you would see on like a varnish that you would see on a table or something like that. And it blocks up all those tiny little minute holes I was showing you before. But yeah, it appears to be working fine. Let's see if we can chip something. See if we can make a mess. smoky. I don't think it's been running in a while. Yeah. Works a beauty. What do you reckon, mate? He reckons it's good. Oh, that's the end of this one. Pretty simple. I thought it was going to be worse than that. Peace. P.S. It was a little bit smoky because I was still running with the choke on. She was starving for air, running a bit rich.